Hello, 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 America.
Good morning.
Good to be with you all from all around this country. You've got the American Awakening Squad and the Daily Signs of Life live stream, as well as podcast with our relevant partners. And as always, we're so glad to be with you. We're particularly grateful, I speak for myself, to just be able to be gathered with these guys and spend time with this wonderful crew every day. If you could only participate in the joking we do offset before we get on and after we get off, at some point we just have to do a ramble like that. When we were getting on the air today, it was a long run on favorite Chris Farley movies. So that was the important context for this morning's show. To kick us off, we've got Josh Jacob, who was doing a mean Chris Farley imitation before he got on the air. Very impressive, you might say. So over to you, Josh.
That stays within the squad, So, bless the Lord, oh my soul, all that is within me, bless His holy name. So, this song is just about giving praise to God. All right. Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. We live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes, you wonder. Show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one that could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. We live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes, you wonder. Show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. And I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation, and I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. Ooh, holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes, you wonder. Show
Thank you, Josh. So appreciated. What a nice word to start us with. I'm so grateful to be here with you all out there on the line and on the pod. I'm so grateful to be here with my teammates. It is a wonderful day to be alive, notwithstanding all the challenges. Where I sit, it's 39 degrees high today, which just feels a little too chilly, even in the Northeast for mid-April.
High of 39? Woo!
High of 39, Jeff. That's right. That's right.
I think we would die.
That just seems cruel. That just seems cruel. But you know what? Even with that, I'm grateful. Even with a 39-degree day in mid-April here in Vermont, I'm grateful because I'm with this great group of folks and all the wonderful folks who put the show on with us. A special shout out today for our producers, Marina Pappas and Christian Palacios and Andy Peterson, who works every day to make sure it gets to pod. We're really grateful for you guys and making this all happen, as well as, of course, the great folks on the air. And all of you listeners and viewers, we pray for you every day. We get together every day at 10 a.m. and we pray for you and your needs and wishing God's blessing upon you and you have a sense of purpose, God's purpose and meaning in your life. And now, turning it over to our friend in Florida, where I presumably it's a little warmer than 39 degrees, Joel Searby.
Well, hey, John. Well, actually, we are getting a nasty storm right now. So if you hear some thunder and see some lightning, that's what we're getting in Florida right now. If I cut out, so yeah, some strange weather all around. Strange world right now. Every day we bring you what we call a daily dose, a little bit of light and hope. You can get that in your inbox. We would love for you to sign up for that at americanawakening.us/daily dose. And we send these emails out every morning with just a short little thought. And we're starting something new today called Action Wednesday. We're going to ask folks to take the stuff that we talk about and actually put it into living. And I want to just give a quick shout out here because one of the things I love about the work of American Awakening is that we are trying to, and Marissa alluded to this yesterday, to really build a big tent and say, hey, we're all trying to figure out who God is and what that means in our life together. And one of our friends at American Awakening is Robin Henderson Espinoza. I'm looking at her book right here. If you're watching, you can see it online. And I want to read something from Robin, who has become a friend and talks a lot about the action of our theology and how do we put this stuff into practice. And so as we're talking about Action Wednesday, I want to read a little quote from this book, which is like a deeply academic and challenging book. I'm reading through it right now, but listen to this. When we lead with our heart, we learn that our mind and body more closely align with putting thought into action. In short, faith without works is dead. Faith being the thing that animates our heart, our internal narrative of how we make sense in this vast world, is compelled by the questions of what and how. What do we do? How do we do it? And so as Robin challenges us to think about what does our faith, our theology in action look like, or is that even our theology itself, which I think is what Robin would assert in some ways. We want to talk today, as we've continued talking all week about freedom. Here's the thing that we want to do today for your daily dose. How can we put into action helping other people be free? And so we've put on our blog, on Daily Dose blog, 5 ideas, really 4 plus your suggestions of how you can help set someone free who's feeling bound. And I'm just going to go through them real quick. We'll drop the link in the comments and would love to hear from you guys how you're going to put this into action today. And I'll let you know what I'm going to do. So here's the first thing. Find someone in your community who has a pressing, tangible need right now that you already have the solution to. Could be your extra car needs to get borrowed for someone who needs transportation. Somebody who needs their lawn mowed because they just can't get out right now, or they're immobile, they're not supposed to be out. Somebody who needs groceries because they're a vulnerable population. Somebody who needs you to run an errand for them because, again, they're not supposed to be out. Get creative, but do it. So find a need that you can meet and go meet it. That's number 1. Number 2, write a letter or make a phone call or send a text to someone who is bound up and not feeling free because they're isolated, they're lonely. And that could be the elderly, it could be someone in jail. This is the one I'm going to do. I have a friend that's in jail right now. We've been pen pals, and you can do it so easily. Most jails now you can email, but write them a note, send them a letter. Sometimes you can send pictures. It depends. Someone who is feeling alone and oppressed, you can help set them free by communicating with them and encouraging them. That's number 2. Number 3, gather up with 3, 4, 5, 6 others, maybe a couple of families. Find a small but significant debt that someone has that you know is holding them back in a big way. It's amazing the number of people in our country who are held back in huge ways by debts of $500, $800, $1,000 that if a couple of us could band together, we could set them free in significant ways. So find a need that you can meet with a group of other people and go meet that need and see what God will do with these crazy Jubilee stories. Number 4, you can go to showupnow.com, and Jeff could talk about this. This is an initiative that Jeff and a couple of his friends have pulled together of how we can find small, practical financial needs all around the country. You can go to showupnow.com and find those needs. We'll post all this in the comments. And these are ways that you can just go find that, pray for someone, help meet a need immediately. So that's what we're doing today. Action Wednesday, to help set people free in real ways. John, back to you.
Joel, that feels like a whole show there, man. I can scarcely move on from all that content. Maybe Jeff can help dig in a little bit deeper with Show Up Now and all of that. Jeff, over to you, man.
Yeah, good to see you guys. Yeah, that was a fun initiative that just happened by accident. Don't want to take up too much time, but I will just go showupnow.com and you can kind of read the story there. It actually happened. I just started a Google spreadsheet to just kind of try to facilitate people's needs of people that follow me and our kind of community, and a spreadsheet for just really practical needs like, hey, I can't pay for diapers this month. Hey, I can't, do this, or, school supplies or anything that just feels really tough right now that usually isn't really tough. And like over 800 people, filled out that spreadsheet, and then like over 700 people helped people in that spreadsheet. And so then we kind of tried to make it a little bit more safe and secure by putting it on a website, and you can pray for people. It's just a really humanizing experience. I would really encourage you guys to go there. Showupnow.com. You can again, help with like mom and pop small financial needs, but you can also go, people can put prayer needs on a prayer wall. You can go say you're praying for them, write out prayers. There's stuff for your community. It's really, really fun. And it's really cool to see how it's just organically grown. So yeah, Joel, thanks for the shout out. And I agree. I think if we can all just show up now, in all the ways Joel said, man, we will get out of this pandemic better, and I think more connected and more full of love and grace and truth. The thought for today that I want you to chew on has to do with coffee. Now, this is something that I've been chewing on for a while, or should I say sipping on, I guess, so we'll see how that goes. For a while. And I think what it has to do is, and I think this is a time for reflection, and the reflection is thinking about legacy. Now, I'm from Seattle. I love coffee, absolutely obsessed with it. I love third wave coffee, which if you're familiar means, all the hipster stuff, the Chemex, the beans. I weigh, I have a scale, and I'm just like, Bill Nye, but basically with coffee, it's too much. I'm extra. But that's third wave coffee, right? And a famous pastime of kind of third wave coffee fans is to completely shame Starbucks, right? That's kind of the running joke of just like, oh, that's terrible coffee. You're, that's peons drink that or whatever. Or what's the Starbucks you guys have Starbucks, but what's your guys' favorite? Dunkin' Donuts, which always confused me. I go to the East Coast and they're like, you want to go to Dunkin' Donuts? I'm like, what, for donuts? No, for coffee? What? I still can't compute that. Anyways, but there's this famous pastime of kind of making fun of Starbucks, for what it is now that third wave coffee is a thing. But I would highly suggest, by the way, Howard Schultz's book, Onward, fascinating book. But what a lot of us don't realize is that literally third wave coffee, the more hip, kind of lighter roast and the version culture of coffee we have now, wouldn't be a thing if Starbucks did not actually set that foundation for 20 or 30 years. They created the third wave movement. Before Starbucks, coffee was Folgers in a can on a shelf in a store. They created what sociologists call this third place, meaning coffee actually and coffee culture created this third space where there was home, there was work, and now there was coffee shops that actually fostered relationship. They fostered slowing down, they fostered sitting, and they fostered this drink actually allowing for it to be an entirely different experience than just the utility of the can on a shelf. And so my encouragement for you today is don't forget, spend some time today. Don't forget remembering where you came from or whose shoulders you're standing on, because you wouldn't have third wave coffee without Starbucks before it. And who might that be in your life? Whose shoulders are you standing on that sometimes without you realizing it, you actually aren't thankful for, you make fun of, or you have no grace for the people behind you. And there's a lot of different ways that can go. But I'm always thinking about that, whether that's spiritually, whether that's relationally, of whose shoulders am I standing on, who laid the groundwork for me to be here that I could try to cultivate thankfulness for today. And that's something to chew on, of who are those people, who are those institutions, who are those neighbors, and who are those people maybe even in your family that you're standing on the shoulders of that you haven't thought about, but actually are the people that are giving you life, supporting you, and got you to where you are today. So that's something to chew on for today.
That's good.
It's a good word.
That's very good. Yeah, it is so easy to take for granted that which has come before you. in any area of life, the institutions, the structures, the things that have already exist there. And one of the great things, I mean, we all know there's a lot of bad things about the time we're in. It's really, really tough. But when you re-baseline and things get stripped away, you start to appreciate more the actual basic building blocks of things. And maybe this is a time that, in line with your words, Jeff, that we can all sort of pause and look back to those who have gone before us, those who have laid out a path for us, those who have provided us the opportunities we have. Great word. I'll always love when somebody reminds me to be grateful for something, because it's so easy to just keep on rolling on and not be grateful. So,
Man.
So over to our squad to talk about WOW. So that's happening, and today's discussion topics are special friends in the greater Boston area, Calvin Lee and Marissa Prince. Calvin, first over to you. You're on air, friend.
Absolutely. What's up, everyone? Again, grateful for you. Thanks for tuning in. Again, couple of stories to segue nicely into our discussion topic of the day. But this is what's going on in the world of COVID-19. So for our first story, we have a team led by the Center of Disease Control and Prevention and the Federal Emergency Management Agency. So they've created a draft of a back-to-work strategy for the nation. The plan offers guidance for local and state governments on how to reopen the country safely in 3 phases. The first would be readying the country through a communication campaign and community readiness assessment until May 1st. The following step would be manufacturing of testing kits and protective equipment. That would be stepped up, and emergency funding increased through May 15th, which leads into our final phase of staged reopenings, which would start soon after that, and fully dependent on kind of local conditions. So the plan specifically says reopenings would not occur before May 1st. However, after that, schools, daycares, and other facilities that care for children would be of the highest priority. And this draft of our public health strategy, it's only 2 parts of a larger 8-part kind of plan. And so we're excited to see how that plays out. Next door, we have a new poll that pretty much finds something very interesting, that even if social distancing restrictions were lifted today, that more than 2/3 of Americans say that they would not resume their normal daily activities. It's for the economy, as plans transit. Poll conducted by Gallup on April 3rd through the 5th found that 71% of Americans would actually wait and see what happens when lawmakers lift social distancing restrictions, while just 20% would resume life as normal, and actually 10% would wait indefinitely to see how things play out. California Governor Gavin Newsom said on Tuesday that his state would actually not return to normal until a vaccine was released, which could be a year or more away. And or when a large percentage of the state's population is actually immune to the virus, known as herd immunity. So again, a couple stories just providing a little bit of insight on where we are as a people. This is not to discourage, but I think to ultimately encourage where we are, and this is where we can ultimately go. But again, segueing into our discussion topic for everyone, over to you, Marissa.
Thank you. Yeah, continuing on with this theme of how people out in the world are feeling today. Just a few short hours ago, another survey was published, this time by Harris Polls, which found that 44% of those people surveyed feel lonelier now than ever before because of isolation with corona. 68% of respondents said they feel like everything right now is out of their control. And 53% of respondents wish they had tips on how to take better care of their mental health during this time. So again, those are pretty large numbers, no matter what the size of the population was that they surveyed. That's a lot of people who are feeling a lot of a lot of disruption in their lives and some fear and not really knowing what to do. We started the show again because we feel called and led to be with people, especially in this moment, and to declare a word of peace and joy to everyone. So everybody on this message, we're all real people. We're living through the pandemic as well. So a few short questions. One, how are you guys dealing with any feelings of loneliness or feeling out of control? Two, how in this moment are you finding ways to hold on to who you are? And three, as our earlier story said, is the country is slowly making moves towards getting back out into the world, lifting our restrictions. What are some strategies that you're using right now to help protect and take care of your mental health? Guys, what are your thoughts?
That's a good question. It's a good question. I want to hear everyone's thoughts. I'll jump in with two quick ones.
Yeah.
I do think it's very helpful to have some type of boundaries during this season with your phone connectivity and like internet.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a huge part of it. For us, our family, I have it written down in my iPhone notes, but it's called the Beth Key Tech Manifesto, and we have a bunch of rules, and we've had this for like a year or two. But it's been really helpful in this season of just like rules of like, man, the phone doesn't come in the bedroom. The phone gets turned off, at night, doesn't get turned back on until I, read or think in the morning, and, a couple other things. And then some rules with the kids with shows and stuff like that. I think that's really helpful. Just provide some boundaries. But the caveat with that, I would say is or the kind of the, what would this be? Contradiction a little bit is also pick up the phone a lot more. And what I mean by that is call someone, right? I know if you're under 30, like me, that is the last thing you ever want to do in your life is call someone. It's like, I don't want to talk to you on the phone. I don't want to text me, and so I think, but what I've realized, and this is actually something I've totally tried to cultivate the last year or two. So that was more me when I was like 28, super young. But now that I'm 30, I feel like, man, I've tried to really hard. If I think of someone or if I have a few moments, just call them. Just call your friend. Say what's up. How you doing? Check in. And I think that is a pretty life-changing practice that really does connect you more than just a text or something on the internet.
That's good.
Yeah, it's good. Quickly shout out on that, on kind of getting your family figured out on tech. Andy Crouch's book, Tech Wise Family. Andy's a friend of the movement here, and our, he and John,
phenomenal book,
go way back. Great book, The Tech Wise Family. I would say, Marissa, for me, something that's been super powerful is literally just taking it day by day. I mean, just waking up every day and saying, I've got today. That's what I know I've got. And that's a deep, all-time truth, right? And we're always trying to be like strategizers and planners. And I mean, I made my living largely doing strategy for people. But there's an idea behind just simply waking up and saying, I got today, and I'm going to seize this day and be totally present in this day. And I'm not going to get all tied up in what's happening tomorrow or 3 months from now. I'm just totally going to be present in this day. And that's been super helpful for me. My more practical thing is take a walk every day. It's huge.
That's right. You got to move. You got to figure out.
Getting outside and taking a walk. That's huge.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
It's true.
So good.
You're calling on timeless principles. These principles these guys are mentioning here, they're always true. And now we're just pulling them down into a tough moment. Basically, the one that Joel's talking about is the one that all the great spiritual traditions have taught us forever, which is you've only got the day you're in. That's all you got. C.S. Lewis talked about the fact that God is not something you should be trying to experience in the past. So don't live in regret or sadness about something that's happened before, or don't project to the future because you're not in that future. That God is to be experienced in the holy present, and that's something which echoes what people have told us forever. And the second thing, over to Jeff's point about not being wired into the outside world all the time. That one goes to the old sphere of influence principle, which is something which Stephen Covey did a great job of calling down in his great book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which is basically you only get to control the things you can control, which are the things that are right around you, which aren't the future, the past too, by the way, same point in a different time axis. But basically, what Jeff's telling you, and not sort of being on fire with what's out there, because you don't have any control about what's happening in Germany or Italy or Spain right this minute, or the Wuhan province, or for that matter, even in Washington. What you do have control over is these other parts of your life, how you're approaching each day. And so if you could think about the things that you're actually in control over, which is always a lot less than we'd like for it to be, and stay focused on those things, and invariably you end up a lot happier. At least I do, anyway.
That's a very good word. That's real. And just even pulling from that, this idea of just myself sort of, okay, everything's changing. But all right, what isn't changing, Marissa? At the core of who I am, I'm the same woman that I was 4 weeks ago. I'm a daughter of the Most High God. I'm loved. I love my family. I love movies and crazy movie lines. I love the idea of working with God to do whatever God would have me do during the day. I mean, again, even if you've just got to take inventory, literally minute by minute, depending on how your situation is, and how frazzled you're feeling and how out of control, what do you know about who you are? What are the things about you that haven't changed? What are the things about you that you know? And who are the people and the things that you love? Sometimes it can come to just that basic, reminding yourself in the moment, who am I? I'm still here. And I've still got some stuff about me that I know. I might not know how this thing's going to turn out, but there are some things about me that I know. Calvin, what are your thoughts?
Man, all are so good. I think for me, when it seems like there's a whole lot of uncertainty and we have very little control, it's I think kind of piggybacking off what John said and what you said, Marissa, it's just simply like, what else do you have other than what do you believe? What are you choosing to believe? What other control do you really have other than that? Because, when I think about our history, those who have come before us, I think there have been a lot of groups of people. There have been a lot of times when people had very little or no control over their external circumstances. All they really had was, like you were saying, Marissa, who am I? What do I choose to believe in this moment? And so I think there is something about, again, taking from what Joel said, is waking up every day and choosing to believe in this God who says he's got you, and then choosing to believe what this God says about you, that you are the son or daughter of the Most High, that you are precious in his sight, and that, he will never let you go. And so I think there's something about that, of when the only real thing that we can control is what we choose to believe in that moment.
I love that. And I think it's also important for anyone out there who is feeling lonely and like there's no one around and feeling isolated. You got to remember that in this moment, no one knows what's going on. No one knows where this is headed. Everyone is feeling out of ease. But I promise you, this moment that we're all in together, we were all born for this moment. And even just in that shared experience of like, we don't know, but there's purpose to being here in this hour. And together, if you reach out, which is something we talked about before on other episodes, not being afraid to reach out to those around you. I promise you, there's a kinship between people now. Sometimes, I think it's because of how bad things are. There's a kinship now between people, neighbors. You might not have ever spoken to your neighbor before this moment, but now is a very good time. You might be out of eggs. They might be out of eggs. I promise someone's got an egg on your floor in your building. Someone's got an egg. Just remember, I think we're here, right? We're here for one another in this moment. And if you're feeling like, oh, man, I wish I could reach out, just, even quickly ask God, is there anybody around me who maybe I could reach out to? Is there anybody around me who maybe I should reach out to just be of service? If you think you're feeling lonely, I bet there's other people around you feeling lonely as well. You're not in this alone.
Yeah.
That might be a good point to wrap this segment on and go straight to the movie clip of the day, which seems to have something to do about all of us plugging in. What do you think, Marissa?
I think so. Jeff, have you seen this movie?
I haven't. When I saw it in the run sheet, I actually had not seen it, but do I need to watch it now? I mean, if you're choosing it for Movie Line of the Day, I think I need to watch it, right?
Well, I won't give it away yet, but this is a Scorcese film. So,
I didn't know that, and I love him.
So anybody who's a Scorsese fan, you might want to check this out.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, still, even without having seen it, I will intro it, and then Marissa, let us know what you thought about it or why you picked it. But I think it'll speak for itself because I did read the line. But without further ado, here's a little line from Hugo.
Machines never come with any extra parts, you know. They always come with the exact amount they need. So I figured if the entire world was one big machine, I couldn't be an extra part. I had to be here for some reason. And that means you have to be here for some reason too.
That's
right.
good.
Chill.
That's good.
I love that. I know I read it in the run show and I was like, that's amazing. That's awesome.
Right?
So
Feeling that one. I forgot Scorcese did that.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, I forgot that it won all the awards that it won. I think, 2011, that was a long time ago, but yeah, no. And I love that. I love that it's kids in this line. It's not just like adults saying, wise things. It's kids saying to other kids, like, there's reason for me and there's reason for you too. Kids should see that.
Great choice,
That
Marissa.
is basically the point of our entire show. That's why we show up every day, is to say that to each other and to say to our audience, all different ways, complicated ways, simple ways. God's here for you. God's got you. You're made for this moment. You're made to overcome this, and you will overcome it as well. All right. Without further ado, we're going to kick it over to our friends in Nashville. We've got a very special musical guest here today. We've got Wayne Kirkpatrick. I'm not going to steal Dan's thunder today by introducing him, but Wayne, we are grateful to have you. And Dan, as always, over to you, friend.
Hey there. Welcome from Nashville. We are here. It's roughly the same temperature here as I think it is up in New England. We're getting we're getting a cold snap here in Nashville, and that's okay, except for all the peach trees and all the kinds of things that people have been working on. As you guys were talking about things to do, I couldn't help but remember the wisdom of John Prine as we're all in this quarantine, that perhaps there are things we can do, like perhaps blow up your television. Maybe even throw away your paper, go plant a garden, eat a lot of peaches. So things like that can also make your list of things to do on this quarantine. If you are going to blow up your television, make sure that you do it with all of the appropriate safety features intact. Wear gloves and
safety
don't hurt
goggles.
anybody. Yes, we don't want to see anybody getting hurt in that process. But the results will be, will far outweigh any of the pain you could feel, though, by blowing up your television. My special guest for the show today, our special guest is Wayne Kirkpatrick. Wayne is someone I've known about for many, many years. In fact, as a songwriter, it's hard not to hear the name Wayne Kirkpatrick and know who he is. He's been just connected to collaborations in songwriting for artists like Etta James, Garth Brooks, Eric Clapton, Little Big Town, Amy Grant, some of my favorites there, Bonnie Raitt, Michael W. Smith, Reba McEntire. Just the list goes on and on. What I think about when I think about Wayne is craftsmanship. A lot of the times I've encountered, when I actually finally got to meet Wayne, it was actually at a festival where Wayne was working on creating board games and things like that, creating clocks and other sort of crafty things out of old antique board games and things like that. It's really fascinating. Wayne has gone on to do some amazing things. Not only is he a Grammy winner, he's also a Tony Award winner for his work with creating Something Rotten on Broadway. And so it's my just my great privilege to have him today on the show. So Wayne, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. I'm great. Thanks for that.
Hey, Wayne, thanks for being here.
Hello. Hi. Nice to be here.
Yes. Wayne, I just want to start out by saying, how are things going with you? The quarantine is certainly affecting people in different ways. What's been keeping you busy?
Keeping me busy. Binge watching and binge eating feels like what most of the time. I'm
Same.
hunkered down with my wife and my youngest son, who was about to move to LA to start a job out there and with a TV production. And so that got halted. So he's still here, which is great, and so him and my wife do a lot of puzzles together, and I swoop in at the end when they're almost done and put in some pieces and feel like I've done something.
It's great
with them. So and that's it. Go on walks here and there, and but fortunately, everyone's safe and sound in my family, and
So you're very obviously connected to not only Nashville here, but also up in New York. This is a season where obviously a lot of shows all shows are really shut down.
Yeah.
But I just have a huge amount of respect for you creating something rotten. I'd love to just hear what you're working on now. How has that shifted what was that like to make the transition from just, general kind of songwriter collaborator into that kind of creative space? How has that been for you?
Well, it's great. I started kind of in earnest working on Something Rotten in about 2010 with my brother. And so now I've been actually involved in the theater for 10 years now, believe it or not. But when we first started, there was, as you can imagine, there was quite a learning curve. And it actually ended up being one of the hardest things I've ever done. Working on a show, and but also an incredibly rewarding experience. And I really I started off in theater in high school, so it's not completely foreign to me. I went to a magnet school in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and it was kind of a college prep school, so you declared a major, and my major was theater. So, and I performed. I was Charlie Brown and You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. I was the Courier in 1776. And, so I loved theater in high school. And so when I left and came to Nashville and pursued songwriting, the theater part of me kind of went away, but I not my love for it. And so when I got involved with it in New York and got around actors and, in that, it really felt a bit like a full circle moment for me, like coming back home. I was like, oh, I know all these people. I grew up with these people, so there was a familiarity to it, which I loved.
Wonderful. Yeah. Well, it's been, we were even just remarking before we all got on that one of the things that I do most of the time during these seasons when times are tough is I tend to move into comedy. And I was asked, have I ever done any stand-up? And I thought, well, no, because comedy is incredibly difficult. In fact, I feel like it's one of the most difficult things to make something legitimately funny on purpose. Is a hard thing to do.
Yes.
And then, so for you to create something that is not only just great storytelling, but is also very comedic, very funny, and that really actually does it well, that is a hard thing to do, right?
It is hard. There were many times when we were working on songs or ideas for the story where we realized that we would have been finished a lot sooner if we didn't have to be funny.
Yeah.
Funny adds another layer to it. And, especially in songwriting too, because, forced funny is not funny. Right. And so just trying to make it feel naturally funny is really a layer that is hard. We'd finish a song and then sit back and look at it and go, this feels like a good song, but it's not funny enough. So, it's tough. And you never really know how funny it is until you put it in front of an audience.
Right.
They will tell you quickly if it's not funny.
Yeah. And it has to be the right audience. It's almost, well, I suppose that feels a little bit like if certain things have a demographic, type, then you'd think, well, I'm going to try to write for a 16-year-old, my 16-year-old child who's kind of angry at me, doesn't really want to be around me right now. And then if it's funny to them, then it can probably play anywhere. They're like the Peoria of the world.
So
So, hey, Wayne, so what I'd love to do is, if you are willing, I would love to hear you play a song for us. I don't know if you've got anything prepared or ready to go, but obviously I've known you as a songwriter first and foremost for many years. I've just respected what you do. Do you have any music for us today?
Yeah, I can. Well, I thought of one that's not a song I wrote, but the song
Great.
kind of, for some strange reason, kind of brings me comfort that I've been singing a lot lately. But I also have something that, if you want, I could play from the new musical that we were working, that was actually 3 days into previews before we shut down up there, which is from Mrs. Doubtfire, which is what we're working on currently, the musical for that. Yeah, what would you like to hear?
Take it away, whatever you want to play for us. We might have you do both if you're
okay.
If you're game for that.
Sure. All right. Well, let me play this. I'll play this old. It's actually a Fleetwood Mac song.
Great.
For you, there'll be no more crying. For you, the sun will be shining, and I feel that when I'm with you, it's alright. I know it's right. To you, I'll give word. To you, I'll never be cold, 'cause I feel that when I'm with you, it's alright. I know it's right. And the songbirds are singing like they know the score. And I love you, I love you, I love you like never before. And I wish you all the love in the world, but most of all, I wish it from myself. And the songbirds keep singing like they know the score. And I love you, I love you, I love you like never before. Like never before. Like never before.
Brilliant. Nice.
Woo!
That was amazing.
Thank you. I love that song. I've always loved that song. And actually, another layer of nostalgia. That was the song that I danced with my daughter with on our father-daughter dance when she was married. One of my daughters. Yeah. So, yes.
Sweet
So
story.
good. Yeah. That's brilliant. So you've been working on Mrs. Doubtfire, which that feels like a bit of a daunting task, right?
It is one of the most beloved movies in the world. So yes, daunting, it would be a word I would use to tackle that. But we were approached and asked to to work on that through the producer that produced Something Rotten. He had a joint venture with, at the time it was Fox Pictures, and of course now Disney has bought Fox. So it's but it was it's one of the titles of one of the movies at Fox. So this producer had a venture with them to develop some of their movies into musicals. So he approached us to see if we would be interested, and we had been approached by a few people before about developing movies into musicals, different titles, and we had a bit of an aversion to that. And some things we turned down just because it just, one of the main questions you ask about a show that's being turned into a musical or being requested to turn into a musical is the question is, does it sing? And, not every movie sings, but we felt like Mrs. Doubtfire did sing. And so we tackled that. And we started that about 3 years ago, I guess. And yeah.
Is that so? And at this point, the process though, that feels in the span of creating something, from the ground up, that probably is quick. When something already sort of has elements that are now being adapted, did it still feel fast to you, or did it feel like a slow process, or what was that?
It compared to Something Rotten, it felt a lot faster. The beauty of having, you've got your bedrock of characters and story that you can build off of, as opposed to building something from the ground up like Something Rotten was, where, if you ran into a story problem or a character problem, you have to solve it. You have to find the answer out of the ether. When you have a source material to build off of, it did feel easier. The biggest challenge was finding the moments that would be musicalized. Mm-hmm. and would be where you could have production numbers and that kind of thing,
Yeah.
So, and then also trying to not just put the movie on stage, give it its own voice and its own reason for being there,
Yeah.
So, but I would say all things considered, it was a little easier. Still hard, but
of course.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about this piece that you're going to play from it.
Yeah, we so I don't know if you're familiar with how familiar are you with the movie, but at the end there's a speech that Mrs. Doubtfire gives, and it's all about families. The movie and especially our musical is really about divorce. And at its core, it's about a father who would do anything to be with his children. But, there are also elements of it about kids that are in a situation with a divorced parents, and kind of navigating through that. And which we really focus on that even a little more. There were some deleted scenes from the Mrs. Doubtfire movie that we got access to, where they really kind of explored the relationship with the father and the daughter, and the effects that the divorce had on the kids. And in the end, the editing of that movie, they choose to keep it a little lighter, so some of those scenes were deleted, but we found some rich material in there. But anyway, the speech that she gives, Mrs. Doubtfire gives at the end, is all about how different families, there can be different types of families, and just because your mother and father don't love each other anymore doesn't mean that they don't love you. All of those. And he says a key line in the movie is, "As long as there is love," and so we thought that was a good title to build off of, and it ends up being a song that closes out our show. And so that's it kind of starts off with Mrs. Doubtfire doing the show that she has done. She's got puppets and all that. So that's what it starts off with that, but it's got this general theme of as long as there is love, that everything will be okay.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, we'd love to hear you play a little of it for us, please.
Shot. Okay.
Yeah.
When your world is getting cold and your story's getting old, well, you can feel and you will like you've lost control. Just remember what you got, 'cause you really got a lot. You can start with a heart in the right spot. Wherever you go, whatever you do, the goodness will surely follow you, as long as there is love. Wherever you dream, whatever you choose, whatever the end, how can you lose, as long as there is love. And when life has got you down and your smile becomes a frown, you never fret, you can bet it'll turn around. So when the sun slips away and your smile comes to gray, well, over time you will find it'll be okay. Wherever you go, whatever you do, my goodness will surely follow you, as long as there is love. Whatever you dream, whatever you choose, whatever the end, how can you lose, as long as there is love. Yeah, love will make it better, as long as there is love. Better now, better forever, as long as there is love.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. Yes.
Good.
Brilliant. I love it.
It's a great show.
So
Andrew.
good. Yes. Well, Wayne, thanks so much. Just appreciate you over the years, just all of the great songs and beautiful things you put out into the world. So thank you for being with us today. We wish your family all just health and more great puzzles to make. And and I hope that you always feel connected to those projects when you can. So thank you so much. John, I guess we'll kick it back to you.
Wayne, thank you very much. My wife was texting me in the stretch run there about how great you are, and I can just imagine that being a great bring down the house end to a show. That was magnificent. Thanks so much for sharing that with us. Really appreciate that, guys. It's because of Corona that we get to get talented people on the air like this with us. So there's some good, there's some bad in all of this. We're very grateful though for Wayne being with us and all the great folks that Dan brings to us. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And again, a reminder that we're on Pod on all platforms. Would love to have you show up there and subscribe and offer a review of our work if you'd be so kind. And until tomorrow, well, keep fighting the good fight, guys out there. God loves you. We love you too. Thanks so much now. Bye.
See ya.